Welcome back to Smart Money Sundays. I know it's been a while. I've had a little break from this series, but super excited to get back into it. Okay, so kind of an update on what we're doing. Exciting update with VIP is we are focusing our trade ideas specifically on three pairs. Okay, and those three pairs are Euro USD, GBP USD, and AUD USD. Now, the reason for this is because we're looking to trade kind of the lower time frames and look for those big RR moves. And so those three pairs specifically, in our opinion, are the very best, the majors, but more specifically EU, GU, and AU for kind of that lower time frame trading during New York session, getting those tight stops and maximizing risk to reward. All right, so kind of started that last week, had some very good success. And the crazy thing is, even when you don't end up catching the whole move, trading from these levels with tight stops, getting strong reactions can even give you those 1 to 3, 1 to 5, even if you don't get a follow through. So when you do get the follow through, obviously, you're hitting 1 to 10, 15, 20s. All right. So super excited. The members have given a lot of positive feedback for this new way of sending out these trade ideas. So if you're interested in that, please message us on Telegram at Arielfx Trading, and we'll be happy to get you on board with these new lower time frame trade ideas. All right, so for this episode, we're going to be focusing obviously specifically on Euro USD, GBP USD, and AUD USD. Now, traditionally, what we've done obviously is kind of a top-down, higher time frame analysis for these episodes, and we'll do that again today, or just kind of talk about levels that we're looking to achieve. Okay, and obviously with the way that we're trading on the lower time frames, you could have an overall short bias, but for a specific day during the session, we could be looking for buys on the lower time frames on some of these pairs. So every day is different, and that's the beauty of lower time frame trading. All right, but all in all, and looking at Euro USD, obviously we are still in this strong downtrend higher time frame. All right, and we've created a new trading range, low, high, low. All right, so we're looking to play within this range ultimately for another higher time frame leg to the downside. Now, if you go back and listen to old episodes of Smart Money Sundays, or if you've been following the series in the past, you will know that for a very long time I have been screaming Euro USD to 1.15, really 1.1495. Here, the old high within market structure that was created before the COVID scamdemic sell-off. Okay, so we've been calling this level for quite some time. Obviously, it's taken a long time to get down here. All right, but we are quickly now approaching that overall objective. Okay, so we're maintaining that bearish order flow down into that 1.15, very key level on Euro USD. All right, so like I mentioned, we have created our new trading range, low, high, low. Okay, and so what I'm looking for coming into this week is potentially one more pop up on Euro, and then looking for that distribution to sell this thing back down again. Okay, and now as you can see on the lower time frames last week, we had that accumulation, the engineering of liquidity, the run of a short-term low here, which provided the liquidity to push this thing higher, creating a new high on the lower time frames. All right, so what I could potentially see here is if we actually pull our old friend out, the Fibonacci. I like to use this for confluences. Okay, you can see that within this leg, the extension arrives almost at our destination of 1.1495, right around 1.15. Okay, so I believe this high is protected still, and that we're simply retracing into premium higher time frame for one more leg at least to the downside. Okay, now what you can see here, the 61.8. Now let's go down to the lower time frame and apply our reverse fib. All right, so apply a reverse fib here. Hop back out to the higher time frames. You can see that negative 27 of our bullish move from the lower time frame aligns very beautifully with the 61.8. Okay, so that gives us some good confluence that we are going to push higher for at least another leg. Negative 27 and 61.8, that's just a general area. I like to refine it, and so remove these fibs and head over to the lower time frames. And I really do like this area. It's right above that negative 27, 61.8 area. But let's go to the lower time frames. Okay. And what I really like here is that this is really that area where we pushed through our liquidity here, buy to sell. All right, this is our supply where we ran out this liquidity. Okay, and so I'm really liking this level at 1.16 as a potential area of distribution for us to look for shorts. Obviously, you can see this candle here as well. Okay, so obviously, if we get the proper time and price, I believe we can get a very nice potential buy up into that region of price, and then look for the sells. Okay, and so looking at buys, obviously we had that manipulation last week with this down close candle that ran out the liquidity, or even ran out this short-term low here. So this would be kind of my first POI in terms of looking for a bullish rally. Okay. And then if we happen to just sweep this out, we still have a little bit of inefficiency at this demand here. Okay. So really kind of honing in on these levels for one more push up into the highs and into this region where we ran out relative equal highs here. Okay. So really liking this on Euro USD. I'm hoping that we can get up here relatively quickly so that the remainder of the week we can look for those clean sell-offs on Euro USD. All right. So I hope you kind of mark these levels off on your charts and be sure to monitor how price reacts and where price is relative to these levels come the proper time of day, London session open and or New York session open. Okay, so that is Euro USD. All right, now let's move over to cable. All right, kind of the same deal here. All right, GBP USD obviously had a massive sell-off, and we ended up creating some equal lows down here. Can better see them better on the lower time frames. But this, to me, is most definitely not a low in the market. And I believe this is just a retracement leg. All right, so naturally I'm looking at this level here, this last up close before this massive sell-off, around 1.3700 as my first POI, and that would align nicely with obviously Euro USD having one more leg to the upside before the leg to the downside, a higher time frame. All right, and so this one is not really as clear in terms of looking for an opportunity to buy it up. I do think potentially what could happen is to start the week, we could potentially see just a quick little run of this short-term low here. And I believe there's some level here on the very lower time frames, I think 3 minute, that we could possibly trade into. You can check it out for yourself somewhere in here. And then potentially look for that final push up into our overall higher time frame supply, where we'd be looking for the distribution and the sell-off again. Okay, so very simple, very straightforward. we're really all about just marking off our higher time frame levels of interest, supply and demand, as well as those lower time frame levels come the right session, the right time and price. Okay. Now, ultimately, GU could trade up into this extreme supply here that ran out liquidity. Now that would take a significant, obviously, push down on the dollar in order for that to happen. But price on GU is technically bearish until we break this level here. Okay, so we could trade all the way back up into here if need be for a continuation down, because this is the higher time frame high that created the higher time frame low. Okay, this is kind of intermediate, but using other confluences, I prefer obviously this one here, 1.3700. All right, so that is GBP USD. All right, and the last one I want to look at is Aussie, and this one is a little more difficult, a little more tricky than EU and AU, but obviously ultimately all are kind of going to follow suit with one another. Okay, and so AUD USD, looking at the higher time frame, we did trade into a weekly down close candlestick here. All right, here obviously had the reaction, but there hasn't been much of a follow through. Okay, and so personally, kind of pairing this with the other dollar pairs, I think we could potentially be in actually for another low to occur. I'm potentially viewing this as not as much so a break of structure, but just a run on liquidity for potential new low. Now I could be wrong. That's why I'm going to be monitoring this level here on the daily time frame, this kind of daily doji candlestick where we had the consolidation, the indecision before this imbalance move. So I ultimately think we can trade back down into at least here, if not make a new low, down into the extreme of this weekly down close candlestick, this demand here. Okay, and so what I'm potentially looking at this as is a fake inverse head and shoulders. All right, tons and tons of retail traders, I'm sure, are looking at this as the inverse, the breakout of the neckline, and they're looking for the continuation. I'm seeing this as a complete fake out of retail logic and the retail narrative. All right, where I'm looking at this as a potential run simply on liquidity and a higher time frame retracement in order to get premium to sell this thing back off down into demand. Okay, so we did run the liquidity and trade into a 4-hour up close, which traded into another up close, so kind of following that chain. Okay, and so I wouldn't be surprised if this thing kind of just quickly snapped up again and died. All right, but it's going to be critical to see how it reacts at this region of price. Okay, obviously, we had the down close, the run on the liquidity here. Okay, so this kind of would become demand. And I'd really like to see how price behaves in this area. Okay, obviously, if we can break down, we can break this low, then we should be good to go down into our higher time frame levels we talked about. Otherwise, if price does respect here and accumulate and break lower time frame structure, then we could be in for one more leg to the upside, which I believe would then propel us up into supply here. You see the inefficiency, the up close, the run liquidity, or even supply here at the extreme. Okay, so this is going to be critical area here for AUD USD, really around 725, 724. So mark that off and be sure to watch how it reacts and what time of day we're trading in this relative to the other dollar pairs. Okay, so this one again, just slightly trickier. I'm going to be looking at this as just a run for continuation because I know EU obviously has not met its higher time frame objective, and we need another higher time frame leg down on an EU. All right, but excuse me. As usual, all of this is subject to change. News events could cause some type of crazy shift in sentiment. But ultimately, I think these objectives will be met on these pairs. Okay. So hope you enjoyed this breakdown. Again, if you're interested in the new lower time frame high RR trade ideas, hit us up on IG at Ariel__FX or on Telegram at Arielfx Trading, and we'll catch some lower time frame high RR trades together. All right, have a wonderful trading week. Thank you.